A View to a Kill is now 40 years old and remains one of the most entertaining and bombastic entries in the series. We gathered together to discuss why we love the film so much, and it was great to have so many of you contribute with your thoughts. We'll move on to the location. Well, when we were young, we had the privilege, Matt and I and our family, we went to San Francisco, and we just couldn't believe. We had a camcorder. This is like in the mid-90s. Driving on the Golden Gate Bridge, like, it's just incredible. And then I think we went to Fisherman's Wharf as well. So if you haven't been, that's recommended, Matt, everybody. But Matt, yeah, that it makes it special, doesn't it, when you've been to some of these places, I think.
Oh yeah, it really does. And San Francisco is an amazing city, one I'd love to go to again. And lots of films have been filmed there, but at the time we went, this was really the only one I was bothered about.
Well, we haven't now.
Yeah, it's such an iconic city, isn't it? With the Golden Gate Bridge, with, I don't know, Alcatraz and some of the other buildings, and yeah, the wharf, the tram. Although Alan Partridge says it's not a tram, it's a cable car in San Francisco. But I can't remember the technological aspects of that he described. But yeah, the locations in this film are absolutely incredible. I was thinking about this today. You get that snowy opening and everything, and then you get London, you get Royal Ascot, Paris, then Chantilly, where you guys have been. France, beautiful France, and then over to America and San Francisco, and you get two action sequences. Yeah, one on the Eiffel Tower and the other at the top of the Golden Gate Bridge. Can you imagine if you were told the equivalent like now, of like two big landmarks? They don't necessarily have to be, the Burj Khalifa like Mission Impossible every time, but at the top of some, I don't know, Big Ben, and so I'm or Sydney Opera House or something. Do you know what I mean? So I think the locations really help with this film, and not wanting to sound like Friends episodes, but often when you think of Bond films and how you describe it to people who aren't Bond fans, it like the one where, well, locations play a crucial part in that. I think the one in Paris on the Eiffel Tower, or the one with the fight on the Golden Gate Bridge at the end.
You might be the only Bond fan who's done all three English and French locations this year. Because you've just done Ascot.
Correct.
You did Amberley for the the Zorin mine stuff. You did Paris.
Paris and Chantilly.
And Chantilly.
I mean, that's four. That's not. I mean, it's more than that.
It's incredible.
Yeah, it's not too bad. We're getting there. It's funny you should mention the locations, because just rattling through all those different, as Matt just said there, all the in chronologically throughout the film, it's actually, in terms of locations, it's one of the most texturized and deeply rooted films in the Bond franchise for that, because when you think of the different layers and how colourful each of those layers are, I think really potentially only Doctor No, maybe Octopussy even come close to that. I mean, it's just a kaleidoscopic burst of colour with this film, and so massively underrated. And like you say, the iconic landmarks that feature as well. There's not really another Bond film. It's unique in Bond's place in history. So again, massively underrated as part of this film.
And Chantilly, Mark, I mean, it's fabulous, isn't it? But people won't particularly know. I mean, there's so many of these amazing chateaux in France that it's just another one of them to the French, probably.
It's
not when you go there, is it?
No, it's so much more. I mean, I watched the movie, and you hear that line about this Duke believed that he was going to be reincarnated as a horse, so he built these amazing stables, and you think that's just a line in the movie, and then you get there and you realize, oh, actually no, wait a minute, this is real.
I must congratulate you, Mrs. Oren. Your stables are magnificent.
Built in the 16th century by a duke who believed he'd be reincarnated as a horse.
And again, with the magic of cinema, you think, oh, it's not all going to be in the same location and visible from the chateau to the stables, and the stables aren't really going to be that grand, and there's not really servants' quarters that look that majestic. But no, there is, and it's just, it's absolutely sublime.
By the way, the preview's already in progress at the main stables.
Oh, is that it?
No, those are the servants' quarters. Stables is over here. Let me escort you there.
I had a conversation with John about the location And coming back to Kieran's point, what you were saying about the colours in the movie, his comments on the colours around Shanti and being such an integral part of the movie really kind of resonate with what we've been discussing tonight. But yeah, Shanti is just, I mean, it took my breath away. I mean, I didn't get to go around all of the chateau, unfortunately, whilst I was there, but that gives me another reason to go back. Everything around those horse stables, you know, where the horse auction takes place when Bond arrives and he's being walked through, and you're going through this location in real life and you're just imagining that scene. You know, you can picture what Roger is wearing. You can picture, you know, that he's just got out of Cubby's silver Rolls Royce. All that amazing dialogue that he has with Tibbett, and you know, throughout that whole auction sequence is just ringing through your head. And yeah, to be there in person, to get to experience that location for real and realize not just that, but also later on, I've just remembered as well. You look across into the distance, and there's the horse racing. You know, the straight where they have the meeting with Gogol and Mayday, and yeah, it's Dolph Lundgren as well. Surprisingly,
Enough of this! Control yourselves!
You will come back to us, comrade. No one ever leaves the KGB.
it's all there. It's all within walking distance, or wheeling distance in my case. But it's great. Yeah, loved it. It's absolutely stunning. And if you haven't been, I recommend it.
Oh, you must do. And the car wash.
Oh yeah,
I didn't get.
I didn't get
Yeah.
to the car wash, but yeah, I know a few people did. But yeah, it's all right there on your doorstep.
It's incredible. Just got to say this. I never thought in my wildest dreams as a Bond fan I would be standing in the middle of rural France, as it were, in a full dinner jacket inside a car wash in my life. I mean, it was so meta and surreal. And I just thought, is this real life? Is this just fantasy? Nice Queen reference. Honestly, it was sublime. And it's even the car. I mean, Mark's sentiments I have to echo. The most magical thing about Shanti is not just the way in which they shot the film there, it's the fact that the location is virtually unchanged.
Yeah.
And you're walking through the footsteps of not just cinematic history, but French history as well, and equine history in equal measure. And you can feel it emits that history as you walk through. And even the car wash is relatively unchanged. Everything is exactly as it was. So I second Mark's sentiments. It's a magical place. Even if you're not a Bond fan, you must visit this location because it will genuinely take your breath away.
I mean, every scene in France, it's so memorable, isn't it? Like the car wash, that sounds silly, but no, that killing of Tibbett is really chilling, isn't it? It's just really scary scene. The horse race, which, you know, Bond goes off grid and then finds Tibbett, that's there. The sort of interplay between Bond and Tibbett, that's a real strength of the film in the first act. Obviously, John Glen has to kill him off. That's a shame, but it's class.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that the relationship is a real highlight for the film, and obviously they knew each other, you know, in real life as well, and that works really well in the same way that, you know, Roger knowing David Hedison works really well for Live and Let Die. But yeah, it's almost a little bit of a sort of prototype, you know, with Saunders, you know, having someone come aboard and then obviously having them working with them being killed in a manner that's does cause, you know, a little bit of anger from Roger in this. But yeah, some of the dialogue is brilliant. There's just like this odd couple that comes. There's obviously a fair amount of comic relief with the two of them, but again, just great. You know, you just don't, you know, just this character's introduced for, you know, a handful of scenes, very memorable, and then he's killed off in a way that is really memorable, and you don't forget that. You know, there's obviously, you know, in some films, you know, main characters can be sort of popped off, and it's like, yeah, you kind of shrug, but you know, you really feel it, don't you, when he dies, because he's such a likable actor and the character's great, and obviously clearly there's a lot of fondness between the two of them, even though they've got that kind of you know, constantly at each other. And as a kid, that bit when he starts playing, you know, he starts the tape, I thought was absolutely hilarious. When he starts talking about, you know, not cleaning his stuff and Brilliant scene, really, really funny.
Anything from St. John Smythe?
Nothing about the sale, sir. But I'd hate to be his valet.
Certainly going to have to buck up your ideas. I'm sorry, sir. Don't be so damned obsequious.
It's like a role reversal, isn't it? It's almost like a Disney thing where the butler is actually, a Sir God. He actually knows more about this place and these horses than anybody else.
One of the most underrated things I think about the film is the introduction of Tibbett. M doesn't say, he's going to be working with us on this case or whatever it might be. He just says, I think he says, Bond, Sir Godfrey Tibbett, our department.
Yes.
2 words, that's it,
Unbelievable. In all my years as a trainer, I've never seen a horse run such a fast last furlong.
Sir Godfrey Tibbett, our department.
I think that's really underrated, just the fact that he's going to be working with you, he's the expert and so on. And, clearly the Roger Moore relationship with Patrick Macnease, wonderful relationship between the two. And, just going on what Chris was saying there about Tibbett's demise, I mean, the timing of that in the car wash, it's just impeccable, isn't it? You just see the shadow of Mayday just before the washers close. It's absolutely wonderful. Tibbett, for me, is right up there with the Bond allies, for sure.
Math, the bit, where he just turns back to open the gate and shoot Mayday's gone.
Yeah.
There's a lot of horror elements in Bond. It's definitely one of them.
Yeah, I was going to say, this really is. It's, a bit like either a serial killer or a like Halloween Michael Myers or something, but it's done so well. It's really good, and as the guys have said, the choice of doing it in the car while the car's being washed and the sort of slightly blurry, and just seeing that figure behind and just seeing him struggle. A character we've grown to like, really likable character. It does have an impact, but it's done really well, and again, I think it's one where they don't overdo it in terms of Bond's reaction, but Bond is really annoyed by this and upset by it, and he says like killing Tibbett was a mistake later on, and that in terms of Roger Moore and stuff, it travels quite far, him saying things like that and coming across, and you can tell from his face, it means his loss has an effect on him, I think.
You lost, 007.
Killing Tibbett was a mistake.
He's so good at those, hasn't he, Roger? When his face when Liesl's run over like that, want to get revenge. Obviously, VJ, that's more sort of sadness, but no more problems. This is it now. And then, obviously, John Glen went on to the Saunders death, dear me, which possibly tops a lot, doesn't it, in terms of pathos? And of course, you mentioned the horror technique, the strangling, of course. That is replicated with Chuck Lee, isn't it, in San Francisco? It is Mayday, isn't it, who kills him?
I believe so. Yes. There was one thing I did notice last time I watched it. When they were driving away, I assume it was Mayday after she'd done what she'd done, driving away. It was almost quite a reckless drive away. It wasn't right on the road. It was on the grass, wasn't it? And I thought that was a really nice little touch, just in terms of like just getting away quickly from what just happened.
I think you see Bond noticing it, but he doesn't do anything about it. But he looks up and sees it, the car driving off recklessly.
Yeah.
So any other allies? There's Chuck Lee, Dick Tracy, O'Rourke, Matt.
O'Rourke, yeah, it's very heavily guarded. Irish American.
Good morning, Mr. O'Rourke. Here's that reporter I told you about.
Mr. O'Rourke, I understand you have a problem.
That Zorin oil pumping station ruined one of the best crab patches in the bay.
Scared them away?
No, they didn't go nowhere. They just disappeared.
I'd like to take a look at that oil pumping station.
Yeah, that'll be tough. It's very heavily guarded.
Tibbett's the main one, and the mighty Chuck Lee, as you once referred to him, Tom, yeah. David Yip, Scouser, who also in Temple of Doom, they are good. But I mean, the amount of women that Bond gets through in this film as well means that you can't have so many allies as well. So,
5 Days to Alaska.
Yeah. This and Spy Love Me is probably the most, but this is probably the most in terms of past first base, for want of a better. I always remember Rob said, like, imagine how much that little capsule would stink after 5 days.
Yeah.
Years worth of Febreze needed on that one.
Yeah.
I worked out it was 5 days to Alaska. I think it averaged 25 miles per hour they'd have to travel between Siberia and Alaska. So it was a nice cruise going on for 5 days there.
Someone somewhere wants to relive that now. I know we do. There's another link with Indiana Jones with Chuck Lee in Temple of Doom, and then Jenny Flex, of course, in Last Crusade, another woman we were very privileged to meet. There's loads of characters in these films, and you think they all sort of make an impact, even though some of them don't have many lines. Like, say, even Dolph Lundgren gets in on the act. Gogol is, again, at this point, it's, you're right in the near the end of the Cold War, yet you're sympathetic with him because he's, no one ever leaves the KGB. Zorin is far worse than anything he's doing. And that all, of course, ends with the double crossing with, Bond girl, she's not a villain, she's not an ally, but Fiona Fullerton. Then we've got all that stuff going on as well. And that what another unbelievably memorable scene in the jacuzzi. It's just, oh, dear me.
Are you all right?
The bubbles tickle my Tchaikovsky.
Like I say, there's so many memorable scenes within each sort of geographical location as well. Like I say, it's so sort of indelible that, I love the fact that when you go to like San Francisco, you get the kind of like Chinatown and you get the sea, the sort of the fisheries and stuff like that. So I think it's almost like a nice little subplot with her, and obviously the very famous "Tickle My Tchaikovsky." Kind of thing. So yeah. I think there's some actually quite interesting female characters in it, and like I say, he does get kind of disregarded as, oh well, he just sleeps with them all, but at least they're memorable. At least they're not just like dressing up dolls. These people just stand around to look attractive. At least they've got at least some dialogue that makes them memorable. But yeah, I think there's some great stuff.
So A View to a Kill, I have to give it an enormous credit in every way, shape, and form. Because not only is this the first Bond movie that I ever saw, View to a Kill is one of the first movies I ever saw in general. And this must have been around the very late 90, early 1991 period where as far back as I can remember, as a toddler, I was born in December 1988, so it's just a very, very earliest part of one's memory that they can remember as a baby, essentially. And even then, I think the appeal of it that I saw, that when I saw it, was that I was able to sort of make out that, okay, this Bond guy, he's a good guy. He's either chasing after the villains, that scary-looking lady Mayday with her weird haircut, or the villains are chasing after him and the lady. And what was very sort of appealing to me as a very young baby seeing it and remembering it is that I'm seeing this action man person going from one location to another, many, many, many different locations. We start off in the snowy area, and then all of a sudden this sort of music video comes on with these fluorescent colours of these ladies who, I don't know why that's happening, but it's happening, and I just have to accept it when I watch the film. Then I see him being in this huge tower chasing after Mayday. We're in a new location now. And then I remember the bits at the party and the horse races. We're in a new location. And then at the fire truck and in the elevator, new location. And then he's being chased after down the cave, as I call it. And I always thought it was kind of like the Goonies cave. And then all of a sudden, the final part where he's in the... I thought he was in the sky, and he's on this brown-looking vehicle of some sorts. Of course, it's the Golden Gate Bridge. One of the great memories of this movie is that I didn't see this movie again for another good 5-6 years. We lost the tape. But there was this one moment in the summer of 1997 on ITV. They were advertising A View to a Kill, and I was on holiday in the caravan on Anglesey, and I knew, wait, that's that Bond movie that I remember. And you start seeing all these familiar things, like the snow, the scary looking lady, the man with the blonde hair, and what would be the Golden Gate Bridge, and you're like, oh my goodness, my toddler self is coming back. I have to watch this movie. And it was going to be a good 5 days from that advertisement. And when we got back at home from the holidays, me and my brother Will, we went upstairs, we watched it on the TV, and it was a wonderful experience watching it with my brother for the first time in so many years, because it doesn't make sense to you as a toddler. But then as an 8-year-old, when you're seeing it for the first time in many, many years, it all comes back to you. It all makes sense. You understand what the plot is now, and so on and so forth. And it was a marvellous experience. And I'll never forget it, both as being a toddler and watching it for the first time in 5-6 years back in the summer of 1997. As a young person, you really want Bond to use gadgets, and you want him to use cars and so on and so forth, and fire machine guns. So in A View to a Kill, he really doesn't do a lot with guns. It doesn't do a lot with gadgets or gadgetry vehicles or anything like that. So, but in some ways, maybe that's the appeal of A View to a Kill, that he doesn't do that this time. You've had a lot of that in Octopussy. This time, we're going to put him through this sort of challenge whereby, okay, he has to use his surroundings to get out of the situation or beat the bad guys. And even in the opening, with the skiing opening, as soon as there's an opening for him to fall down the gorge, he uses the environment to get away from the bad guys. Oh, his ski comes off, right, no use anymore. Uses the rope and hook, and then chases after the snowmobile to get the guy off of it, so then he can get away from the helicopter on the snowmobile. But then it blows up, so what's he going to do? He uses what's left of the snowmobile, and he snowboards out of there, and then he's out of the water, he's on flat ground now. How does he get out of the situation? He doesn't have a gun. He's just going to use his flare gun to kill the bad guys. When he's chasing after Mayday, how am I going to get down quickly as possible? He uses the elevator. He just jumps on top of it to get all the way down. And even when his vehicle is trashed in Paris, no, I'm still going to drive it to the end, to the very, very end, in order to chase after Mayday. When he's pushed in the lake in the car with Tibbett, he can't get up to the surface right away, so he uses the air from the tyre in order to stay underwater. There's that kind of Navy SEAL aspect that he's trying to use to hide from the bad guys. So that's a nice sort of clever way of getting out of the situation. And again, using the fire truck in order to escape. He's got no other vehicle to use. He's got to use the fire engine, and he uses the fire hydrant in order to blast away Dick Tracy, whatever the policeman's name was, in order to get out of the situation. Uses the fire hose as well to get Stacy out of the elevator shaft. When it comes to trying to stop the bomb, so he can't defuse it, it's booby-trapped. So, well, what else are you going to do? If you can't stop the bomb when the time is ticking, what are you going to do to get out of this situation or to stop the bomb? And again, they use the surrounding area to lift it up and then take it out of the shaft away from the explosives. Or when Zorin has bashed Bond on the airship against the Golden Gate Bridge, thinking that'll knock him off, that this will hurt him more than me, Bond uses the rope that he's got while he's on the bridge and just ties him up and, uses the surrounding areas in order to get out of the situation. I suppose that's the appeal that I get from it each time I see it, which, okay, I don't see that in other action movies. And, it's always very nice whenever you see that, whenever you see a hero try not to just easily get out of it with a gadget. Instead, they have to use their surrounding areas in order to get out of the situation or to solve a problem. I think the significance of A View to a Kill is it's very 80s. It's very 80s sounding, especially with that music in there. It gets to you. It really does. And there's no wonder it still survives to this day. Thinking about it, I don't think anyone does a bad performance in A View to a Kill. I think they're all really good. I think they all do the job that they need to, and I think they're all pretty spectacular. And when it comes to the argument of whether Roger Moore was too old to do this or not, I think when you're young, you don't think that. I'm going to go with that. You don't think that. And even as a teenager, I would say, in terms of Roger, no, I think he looked good. I don't think he was too old by that point to do it. I think he looked fairly good. And you know what? If Harrison Ford at 65 could have done an Indiana Jones 4, or 80, an Indiana Jones 5, or maybe more specifically when it comes to someone like Clint Eastwood, 58 years old, doing a fifth Harry Callahan or fifth Dirty Harry movie in the Deadpool. Yeah, he was still good. Do I think he could have done a Dirty Harry 6? Yeah. Could Harrison Ford have made more Indiana Jones after, in between Crystal Skull and Dial of Destiny? Yeah. After I saw every single Bond movie in a row in the Double O Heaven season in 1999 on ITV, but I think it's extraordinary to meet lots of other people who they may get the criticisms, but like, no, I can look past that. I can enjoy the movie. We're going to watch it again and again. And they have done. And this year they certainly will, as of the 40th anniversary. And I think that's something to celebrate. But also, very importantly, this is Roger's final Bond movie. It's the final adventure. Do I think it could have been better? I do think that. But I'm not going to go as far as say, no, Octopussy should have been his last. No. I think there's just something to be had in sort of embracing the fact that he was still giving it 110%. And I think that's something worth celebrating. It's all worth celebrating. Especially when Duran Duran sang the song at Live Aid and so on and so forth. So there is something that we need to acknowledge. Thank you, everybody at Really 007. But before I go,
we mentioned before that one of the trips that the club has done this year is to Royal Ascot. That's another massively memorable scene, isn't it? Where you get the last meeting of all of them together, really. So Robert Brown does continue on as M. He's there. It's the last one for Lois Maxwell as Moneypenny. You've got Tibbett, of course, with them, and Desmond Llewellyn even manages to get a trip to the races.
I think I should meet with this detective friend of yours, Sir Godfrey.
Yes. Might have some interesting information for us. Set it up, Tibbett.
Right you are, Admiral.
Moneypenny, be a darling, would you, and collect that for me? And I'll buy you dinner when we get back.
Pegasus.
Yeah, Kieran, was that quite nice to relive? Obviously, you lot are much younger than that MI6 crew.
I mean, I'm getting there. Honestly, Ascot is one of the jewels in England's sporting crown. For me, it was the Holy Trinity of Wimbledon, Henley, and then Ascot, and this was the final piece of the puzzle for myself. And it was the double whammy, the fact that we were holding the club event there, really. And it was Catherine and myself, and we had a couple of people say hello throughout the day, but it was really just the two of us keeping the British end up. But it didn't take anything away from the class and the splendour and the opulence of Royal Ascot. And it's such a magnificent place, even if you're not into horse racing. It's like Wimbledon. It's that aura that comes with it, that legendary status, the character, the charisma. It just oozes all of that and so much more. And the weather held. It was such a lovely day, and it was quite overcast as well, which was quite nice because ultimately we were all wearing our, some vests, and I had a three-piece on, and I would have just absolutely melted otherwise. But something that Bond never seems to do in either extremity. He always keeps his cool, but just like Bond, I thought, no, it's staying on, and survival to the last, and all that jazz. But no, it was very special, and I mean, we were nowhere near the Royal Enclosure or anywhere along those lines, but that's something to work towards, I suppose, in the future. I mean, and it was quite special as well because I my first ever flutter at Ascot, and I won. came up trumps. And I mean, not quite
Pegasus.
Quite Pegasus standard. And I did say to Catherine at one point, I did turn, and this is what we'll get onto, I'm sure, with the quotes. But this film is so unbelievably quotable.
Oh, yeah.
I just turned to Catherine and I just said to her, I said, "Oh, cast us in for me, dear, and I'll buy you dinner when I get back." But yeah, it's a really, really fabulous day, and yeah, hugely enjoyable.
Fantastic. I mean, you mentioned the Holy Trinity there. You've got A View to a Kill, Royal Ascot, Wimbledon, Octopussy, and Henley-on-Thames is where John Glen's from.
Yes.
So there you go. Yeah.
Tenuous links to all three sporting events.
Not sure. But at that time, Bond he wasn't in England. I keep saying this quite as often as the more recent films have really showcased London in particular, haven't they?
Yeah.
Back then, it was like, what does someone who's not from England recognise? This Royal Ascot is so traditionally English, isn't it? You couldn't be anywhere else really. And then we go to France, the shot of the Eiffel Tower. In fact, that's the cut, isn't it, from one to the other? A bit babyish, but the postcard shots of these places. Oh, I love it. Absolutely love it. Do you want to mention Aubergine? That's another great scene, isn't it? Mark, please tell us about Aubergine.
So, I mean, brilliant Frenchman, no LOLO references needed at all here. No, it's a great kind of scene because that whole restaurant scene, as you're watching it and you're seeing the interactions between him, Sir Roger's Bond, and you've got Carol Ashby on stage, doing her wonderful dancing butterfly whistling routine taking place.
Perhaps we should add this butterfly to our collection? No?
Tell me, why do Zoran's horses beat others with far superior bloodlines?
This is a mystery.
Could he be using drugs?
Nothing showed up in the tests.
And it took me by surprise when what's happened to Aubergine happens to Aubergine, and then there's the chase that begins, to realize, hang on a minute, you're actually on the Eiffel Tower. You're not in some really high-end casino restaurant somewhere where you would kind of typically expect Bond to be wearing his dinner suit, in a casino somewhere. He's actually in a restaurant on the Eiffel Tower, which then kicks off that wonderful, wonderful chase up a few floors and then down again. It's a great scene, and it sets up Mayday's character brilliantly as well, because there's that intrigue, there's that mystery there in terms of, again, stunt work, live action, real stunt work. To have someone jumping off a diving board off the Eiffel Tower. I mean, base jumping is an extreme sport. We know that now, but at the time, this was kind of that flash in the pan moment, in similar way to the snowboarding at the beginning of the film, kind of showcasing this really fresh, really new extreme sport. I mean, I think that there are stories that that scene almost didn't happen because some people tried out that jump the day before they were going to shoot, which nearly kind of closed things down, and certainly not something that was repeated since, I don't think, obviously. But it's just a wonderful, wonderful scene, and that whole thing that then leads to the taxi rank and no, my car, which was quoted so many times at Chantilly, brilliantly by Carl Barbeau, actually, I think, and he was there. Yeah, you said, the taxi driver was there. Kyle's impression of that scene was brilliant. If you got a chance to see that, you're in for a treat. But the whole car chase, the jump, the half car part. Coming back to something that Chris was saying earlier, when you're a kid and you're watching this movie, you don't think about Sir Roger's age, okay? And in the same way, you don't watch it as a kid and think, hang on a minute, that's not Roger driving the car. Because now as adults, we appreciate it from a different level and a different perspective, and you perhaps pick up on things that you wouldn't have done when you're a kid. But yeah, the whole Aubergine, base jumping, car chase, parkour onto a boat, wedding cake. That whole sequence, brilliant.
Congratulations.
You're absolutely right. You don't care about those things as a kid, and I still don't care because
No,
I'd rather have the real thing being done,
exactly.
and it's not been done before. A lot of these things, no one's jumped. I don't think off the Eiffel Tower like that. But it's not just like in some people complain, oh, we don't want stunts for stunts' sakes. Well, no, this is a story beat. This is him literally following the woman who's just killed Aubergine, jumping off. What
He
an
doesn't know it's a
amazing-
woman, though. He doesn't know it's a woman.
No, he doesn't. A woman.
He doesn't.
He's-
Yeah, a woman. He doesn't know. That's the
Yeah.
thing. It's the whole mystery, and it sets up Mayday brilliantly.
Yes, and how good is it? Yeah, because they've seen each other, but they haven't. And he was the man at the Eiffel Tower and all that. So good.
Yeah, so Mayday kills three of Bond's allies in the. I know he's only just met Aubergine, but then then Tibbett after that, which means a lot, and then Chuck Lee, I think. So that's quite a lot.
She's one of the most
think
successful hench people.
Yeah, she's not only one of the most successful, but I think she's one of the best characters in terms of never mind just henchmen, henchwomen. The fact that she's got this amazing arc as well. So to start with, she's very, very interesting, very striking looking. You've got all that, and then Bond, then she's a killer. So we're like, oh dear, this is awful. Then Bond just sleeps with her casually, which is another. As kids, you're finding this very funny, and it's something you could say it's. If Chris was here, progressive. It's the woman's in charge for once over Bond, which is quite funny.
I've been waiting for you to take care of me personally. I see you're a woman of very few words.
What's there to say?
And then she's back to being bad. But the arc of her finale is one of the greatest. I think that's one of the greatest scenes in the franchise. That her saving the day and her looking at Zorin as his plan goes into smithereens is. We've said it many times on the podcast, but I don't understand how people can't look at these scenes that we're talking about and not think this is unbeatable. This kind of entertainment and pathos.
It doesn't even necessarily redeem her, does it? I mean, the awful acts that she's done. I mean, she's killed numerous people, and I suppose that she turned because she felt betrayed by Zorin, which was her motivation for actually taking the bomb out. But doesn't necessarily redeem her for the things that she did either. She's such a complex, enigmatic character, isn't she?
She's absolutely brilliant. Her and Zorin work brilliantly as a double act of how they sort of look together, how they interact. She doesn't have many lines. She also has, Alison Doody and Papillon with her. But just she's this killer, but she's sort of glamorous. She's incredibly strong. So she's a henchwoman, but she's also the girlfriend of the main villain. Bond does sleep with her, and then she does have this some sort of redemption at the end, and like you say, saves the day in an incredible moment. And the music, Mayday bombs out, absolutely brilliant. It's just so well done. Oh, I'm in awe of everything about that sequence.
Get Zorin for me!
Mayday! Jump! Only seconds to go. Mayday, jump! Mayday.
The choices from the actors, but just the script as well. It's pretty simple. Zorin's watching on from the airship, and he's like only seconds to go. It sounds a bit bomb football commentary. Or she appears like you say, and then as she sees him, her face changes and then blows up, and then that's it. His plan completely gone. And then the way he acts afterwards, because he is a psychopath.
Yeah.
Like the people around him don't quite know what to say or how to
Yeah,
react
yeah.
to, because he's like almost manic or, just. So that sequence is brilliant. And Mayday, Grace Jones is so. I mean, I'm pretty sure she's an unusual, unique person, and they obviously thought, "What we can do something amazing with Grace Jones," and they really did.
So, in terms of a henchman or henchwoman in her case, she's got one of the most interesting story arcs, like we've touched upon. She goes through, it's a wonderful weave, and she goes through all these different scenarios, and eventually she does try to redeem herself, or at least be accountable for her previous despicable actions. And I think that whole scene, the way it all comes to a climax at the very end, is absolutely beyond thrilling. And the musical cue, I mean, I have to agree with Matt here. I've been listening to the soundtrack again, and Mayday Bombs Out. That is one of the most underrated pieces of Bond music, I think, throughout the entire franchise. And it gives me chicken skin just starting to think about that scene. It's so well put together. It's the beautiful composition of everybody who has their hand to play in filming and making these wonderful films called James Bond. And no one else could have made a scene or made a film like that. The genius of John Glen, the productivity of Cubby, no one could have produced that movie magic like these guys. And that scene is absolutely testament to that.
It is. It's like I say, it's just shivers thinking about it. Like the track is wonderful just listening to it on its own, but it's also following what you're watching. It's following the action, and yeah, it doesn't get any better. This.
Sorry, I couldn't join the chat, but I am just as enthusiastic to talk about A View to a Kill as anyone else. How good that we've got to this anniversary. A chance to appreciate this film and talk about it, discuss it, debate it, I guess, because not everyone's a number one fan of A View to a Kill, but boy does it have some talking points, and for me they're all great talking points. I absolutely love this film. It's definitely one of the ones that I grew up on. Roger Moore was a bit of a staple in our childhood, in our house, but of all the Roger Moores, A View to a Kill felt more like one of the newer ones. I don't know if I can say modern or new, but it just felt like it had a newness to it. And I think that's to do with the locations. I love the locations of this. They aren't extraordinary back and beyond jungles like we've had in Octopussy and things like that. They're actually in quite Western locations, from Paris to San Francisco. But I mean, just me saying that is so exciting. Bond in Paris, Bond in San Francisco. What a setup. Both those places, it's not just a back street that they go down. They absolutely exploit the place. In Paris, you've got an incredible set piece on the Eiffel Tower that is just marvellous to look at and to watch, because again, you've got real stunts, real skydiving, landing on a real boat on the Seine. And then when you go to San Francisco, it's not just a tram or anything like that. It's not even just an incredible fire engine chase down the streets. It is an end fight atop the Golden Gate Bridge. James Bond versus the villain with an axe. How good is that? Can't be beaten, surely. So I love the locations and I love the way that they're used. I love the characters. I love, obviously you've got Bond, but then I love his, his relationship with Tibbett, the way that they partner up. I think it's a gorgeous kind of companionship between those two, which I know some people may well laugh at first instance or criticise because both are on the older side. But there's a really charming element to it as well. They play it brilliantly, the two of them, Patrick Macnee and Roger Moore. What a great combination, reunited for this. And it comes out of the screen, their chemistry. It brings moments of laughter, but it also brings moments of real sadness as well when Tibbett is kind of executed. So again, it's John Glen at his finest, using an ally to tug on the heartstrings. But then it's not just him. I love the use of Moneypenny and M in this film. Going to the villains, I mean, come on. You've got Christopher Walken. Christopher Walken is in a Bond film. And it is Christopher Walken playing a maniac. Max Zorin with blonde hair, grey trousers and white trainers. Whoa. I mean, he is an iconic villain. and probably in my top 5. Every line he says is fascinating and brilliantly delivered, really, really quotable. But also his kind of fascination and fixation on Bond is so interesting as well. He is really threatened and challenged by Bond's presence and Bond pursuing him. And then Mayday beside him has a wonderful character arc. And the way that she evolves, the way she's used, she is a proper threat. But then her redemption feels properly done as well, which is just marvellous. And then you've got just wonderful moments throughout the film involving Q, and I could go on and on and on. But I just love it. Now, I know some people will criticise the age of Roger Moore in it, and I can understand that. He's definitely on the older side, and it's visible. But for me, he is so watchable. He's so lovable. And although he might not look as physically able, you believe what you're seeing. You believe that this Bond, who's a little bit on the older side, is doing some of these amazing things, from skiing as well, you know, to this Golden Gate Bridge fight. It just has real presence, and it needs the charisma, the charm of Roger Moore to do a lot of the stuff in this film, regardless of his age. Whether he's, you know, at the chateau at Chantilly, or whether he's kind of going undercover into the mine, it just all works as Roger, regardless of his age.
Where's the fire? On your rear end.
And I just think the look of this film all goes together really well. I think one of its strengths is how distinct it is. I've talked about its locations, but also the look of it, the action, the lines, the characters, the charm that's going on between everyone. There's no way that you could watch a scene of A View to a Kill and be mistaken for thinking it's another film. It doesn't look anything like Octopussy. It doesn't look anything like Living Daylights that comes after it. It is its own film, and this is just one of the things I love about Bond, and I keep going on about in reviews and episodes, the ability to have its own identity and distinct quality that A View to a Kill has it. Stacey, I think, is a good enough Bond girl. I know that she can aggravate a few people with her behaviour, her looks, and obviously the age gap that some people might talk about, but she does her job to fit in this film. You're not going to see her again. There's no sense of real love and it being something everlasting. She is caught in her own mission a little bit, and the way Bond assists her, I think, is really wonderful, actually. So these are all the stuff that I love, and in some ways you could talk about them being surface features, because beneath it, again, some people might say, you know, the similarities with Goldfinger an issue, but I like it how it's kind of taken that spine of Goldfinger and really made it into a brilliant detective spy mission. Bond is doing some of his best spy work yet. The way he's going undercover, using gadgets as well, going behind enemy lines, probing, investigating, breaking into places. He's doing some incredible spy work out in San Francisco and in Paris. This is just amazing. And then on top of that, it culminates in just one of the greatest finales. And then we've got to come to the two Johns to finish. John Glen, John Barry. Oh, I mean, their chemistry, the way they are flowing now is just outrageous. John Glen is just directing a mission that's so watchable, a story that you can keep up with so easily, action that's not just visible, but it is absolutely immersive and jaw-dropping at times. Also, those characters, like we've talked about, the way he gets the best out of these actors and these relationships that Bond has. And then when we go to John Barry, I mean, could it be his best soundtrack? I know we listened to it on tape in the car on loop when we were children because it just takes you to a place of excitement. It is enthralling. It is cool, so very cool. And even though it's got the slightest 80s twang of electric guitar, I don't think it's dated at all. I think it is just as emotive, powerful, and exciting as it was when I was a child to hear that music. And I would challenge any young person to not be excited listening to it, wanting to be an action hero. And do you know what? Any older person watching it on telly, when you're watching action films these days that don't have themes, they just have percussion, Watch this and see the way John Barry uses melodies and themes. The amazing theme song of Duran Duran coming through, and then you've got versions on the flute for Wine with Stacey. Just everything coming together so well. It is one of my favourite Bond films. It's serious, I could watch it on a Saturday night, but it's also comforting, I could watch it on a Sunday afternoon. It has everything and I absolutely love it. It'll always be dear to my heart, because it just takes me to a special place. And that's not just nostalgia. I think it is a very well crafted film with excellent performances, amazing characters, directed and put together superbly by everyone involved. Hear, hear for A View to a Kill. I absolutely love it. Happy anniversary.
That's the end of part 2 of our massive celebration of 40 years of A View to a Kill. But keep watching as we go into our third part, where we eulogise even more about this absolute classic.